Welcome to Brush and Beyond, where we see the world through an artist's eyes and learn to express our own worlds. René Magritte, Magical Apple. Today in our art class, we're going to meet a very famous painter from Belgium. His name is René Magritte. Magritte was a surrealist painter. That means he painted things in strange, surprise, and dreamlike ways. He loved to paint apples, but the apples in his paintings are much bigger than the ones we eat every day. Before we look at Magritte's artworks, let's first learn a little bit about his story. As a child, René Magritte once saw a painter working in a cemetery while he was playing with a little girl. Curiously, he went closer and discovered that the painter was painting the cemetery itself, and the picture looked so real. That moment sparked Magritte's deep love for art. When he grew older, Magritte studied at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Brussels. By the time he was nearly 30, he moved to Paris, which was then the art capital of the world. Surrounded by so much creativity, Magritte began making many amazing surrealist paintings. Let's look at some examples. René Magritte was one of the most famous painters from Belgium. He painted in a style called Surrealism. But what is Surrealism? It means making art that looks real but could never happen in real life. In this picture, for example, Magritte painted an apple as big as a house. That can't happen in our world, right? But in his art, it looks possible. Surrealism is like mixing dreams and real life together, so the pictures can feel magical, funny, or even a little bit strange. Surrealism was an art movement in Europe during the 1920s and 30s. Its main idea was to go beyond ordinary reality and logic, and instead use dreams, imaginations, and even illusions as inspiration. Surrealist artworks often combine dreams and reality, and they can feel mysterious, strange, or even a little spooky. Sometimes artists would exaggerate or twist familiar objects, like the apple in this case, to surprise us and make us see the world in a new way. Now, let's take a look at Magritte's surreal, super big apple. This is a listening room painted in 1952. What do you see in this picture? What kind of apple is this? Are the apples you usually eat this big? How can you tell that this apple is very big? This is one of Magritte's surrealist apple paintings from 1952. In this work, he used exaggeration. He made the apple so big that it looks as big as a house. In the composition, the apple fills almost the whole picture. For comparison, the apple is shown next to a room, making it the same size as the space around it. Here's a comparison of the two pictures together this time. In the first one, Magritte's apple is super huge. It takes up almost the whole room. But in the second picture, I cut out Magritte's apple and placed it on a table. Now in this new picture, the apple only takes up a small part of the picture, and the table becomes a new object we compare it to. So what do you think? How big is the apple now? So now we can see how comparison objects and composition are very important in art. If we want to paint an apple as big as a house, we need to put the apple next to a house. If we want the apple to look as big as a car, we need to put it next to a car. And if we want the apple to look as big as a table, we need to put it next to a table. Take a look at this picture. This is Fine Reality, painted in 1964. Do the apple and the table look the same size? Yes, that's because the table is the reference object, and the sizes are shown in comparison. Now let's take a look at some of Magritte's most famous works. This is Time Transfixed from 1938. It was showcased at the Centre Pompidou in Paris. I visited this in New Year's in 2025. The Surrealism exhibition at Pompidou was celebrating the 100th anniversary of Surrealism. This exhibition has now moved on to other cities, including Fundación Mapfre in Madrid, the Hamburger Kunsthalle in Hamburg, and will be at the Philadelphia Museum of Art from November 2025 to February 2026. This painting is called Time Transfixed. In it, Magritte painted a train coming out of a fireplace, something that could never happen in real life. He wanted to surprise people by putting two very different things together. The painting makes us stop and think about how ordinary objects can feel suddenly so strange and mysterious. This painting is called Personal Values. In it, Magritte painted everyday objects like a comb, a glass, and a bar of soap, but he made them so huge that they filled the entire room. By changing the size of ordinary things, Magritte wanted us to see them in a new way. The painting makes us wonder what is truly normal and what we value in our daily lives. This painting is called The Infinite Recognition. It shows a giant pear and a giant apple standing together on a beach. But look closely. They don't look soft and juicy like real fruit. Instead, Magritte painted them to look like heavy stones. By changing the texture of the fruit, Magritte makes us see something ordinary in a very surprising way. Not only can he use size, but he can also use texture and color. This picture now feels very familiar and strange, like a dream where fruits turn into rocks. This painting is called The Greeting from 1938. In my opinion, it's a little bit scary. In it, Magritte painted a very unusual scene, a huge upside-down woman's face leaning into the picture, a giant rock standing in an archway, and two tiny men in coats looking towards the sea. The painting feels strange because the objects don't belong together and their sizes are all very different. Magritte wanted to surprise us and make us think about how ordinary things, like faces, rocks, and people, can look completely new when they're put in unexpected places. This is the postcard from 1960. The postcard captures a quiet, introspective moment, often showing figures in a contemplative or distant stance. The composition emphasizes stillness, with muted colors and simple forms that draw attention to the mood rather than details. There is a sense of narrative tension, as if the scene is part of a larger story left unsaid. Overall, the painting evokes feelings of nostalgia, reflection, and the subtle complexities of human interaction. This is the treachery of images. The French on the bottom of the painting translates to, "This is not a pipe." It's from 1928. At first, it looks like a simple picture of a pipe. But underneath, Magritte wrote the words, "Ceci n'est pas une pipe." Why? Because it isn't a real pipe. It's only a picture of a pipe. Magritte wanted to remind us that pictures and words are not the same as the real objects. This artwork makes us think carefully about what we see and what we believe. It's one of his most iconic paintings. Now we see also one of his most famous paintings, The Son of Man from 1964. It depicts a man in a suit and bowler hat, standing in front of a low wall overlooking the sea and cloudy sky. His face is almost completely obscured by a hovering green apple, though you can still see his eyes peeking over the edges. Magritte described it as a self-portrait, but emphasized that the mystery of hidden versus visible was the main theme. He once said about his work, "Everything we see hides another thing. We always want to see what is hidden by what we see." It's a part of Magritte's broader interest in concealment, identity, and the limits of perception. Thank you so much for watching this art history video on René Magritte's amazing artworks. Make sure to click on our next video to try an art activity that's related to Magritte and his green apples. Thank you!